And I contacted her mom and was like, hey, let her know that I miss her and I'm thinking about her. And she came to parent-teacher conference a couple months later and looked at me and she said, I've never been to this. I just wanted to come to thank you, because if you wouldn't have messaged and said, like, you missed her and wanted her back, she had said she wasn't coming back to school.
When you try, you have the opportunity to succeed or fail. And that's very real. But because you've done that, you have gained so much knowledge about yourself and whichever direction that you want to go. The persistence is something that's going to be helpful to you.
Like, I think you can do this. And on our last quiz we took, she made a 98, and it's like, come on, you can do it. And she was so happy. She was like, aren't you proud of me? It's like, yes, I'm always proud of you. But
Welcome to TennTalks. Today we are stepping into the classroom to explore one of the most vital professions in our state, teaching. Education is evolving, and the pathways to becoming a teacher are more creative and accessible than ever before. In this episode, we'll hear from educators at every stage of their journey. We'll start with a dedicated middle school English teacher who always knew her calling, shift to a high school algebra teacher who made a major pivot in college, and hear from an educational assistant utilizing an innovative Grow Your Own program to earn her degree while working. Finally, we'll get a macro perspective from an associate dean of education who is actively building these pathways for future educators. Let's dive right in. We begin with Mary McBride, a 6th grade English and language arts teacher at Parsons Middle School. Having a mother who teaches middle school special education, Mary knew from a young age that she wanted to be a teacher so she could be a student's biggest fan. She attended the UT Martin Parsons Center, graduating in just 3 years by taking summer classes, and loved the small class size that mirrored her high school experience. Managing 30-plus students per class has been a major challenge, and Mary quickly learned that being a teacher also means being a counselor in a safe space. She shared a deeply moving story of a student who lost her father on Christmas Day. Because Mary took the time to message the family and let the student know she was missed, the student decided to return to school. With long-term goals of becoming an instructional coach to support struggling new teachers, Mary's ultimate advice to high schoolers considering the profession is to not quit. The money may not be the primary draw, but the daily opportunity to be the one person a child truly needs makes every difficult day worth it.
I'm Mary McBride, and I'm from here in Parsons, Tennessee, and I'm a 6th grade ELA teacher at Decatur County Middle School.
And because we used to call it something different when I was in school, ELA is English and Language Arts.
Yes.
My daughter is in 4th grade and corrects me on that every day. I'll say, you have English? And she's like, it's ELA now, Dad. When you were younger, what did you think you wanted to be?
I've always wanted to be a teacher.
Okay.
My mom has been a teacher for 40 years, and so I've just grown up in it, and that's what I've always wanted to be.
And what does your mom teach?
She teaches special ed at the middle school.
Okay, so around the same age group as well?
Yes, 5th through 8th grade.
Okay. Did you know that you wanted to land in 6th grade, like around that age range?
No, actually, I taught kindergarten for 4.5 years and then moved to 6th grade.
I bet that was a jump.
It was. It was.
Was there a specific experience that helped you decide in college or even before college? You always knew teaching, but was there a specific experience or anything that was like, it's this area of teaching that I want to go into?
There was never really a specific area. I just wanted to be with kids because I knew growing up sometimes that, like, my teacher was my biggest fan, and that's what I always wanted to be for somebody else to know, so that they knew that, they have an adult in their corner at all times.
Well, looking back at where you started, where did you go to college?
I went to college here in Parsons at the University of Tennessee at Martin, the Parsons Center.
And you were able to complete the entire education there, right? So same campus?
Yes, I only had to graduate in 3 years because I did summer classes too.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Which is rare these days, right? Isn't teaching getting closer to 4.5 to 5?
Yes. Now, I only had to do student teaching for 1 semester.
Okay.
But now I think student teaching is like a whole semester worth.
Okay.
Like 2 semesters worth. So
Were you able to do student teaching around here?
I did it at Lexington Middle School and at Pin Oak Elementary.
Very cool. So you got to experience a little bit outside of home as well.
Yeah.
What was the hardest adjustment that you had to make when you got to college? Like, what made it very different from high school?
It actually wasn't very different from high school because I was able to go to here in Parsons, and it was smaller class sizes. And I think I really enjoyed that because I was able to be very comfortable and get to really know my teachers versus going to a big campus and, not really knowing anybody very well.
Very nice. So you never hit a moment where you were like, I'm changing majors, or this is it, or I'm going to take a different path?
No, actually, I didn't.
Very nice. That's always cool to hear, because I know that is not everyone's experience. That's
Right.
it totally happens though. Is that there are some that change 3 times and 4 times. There's some that thankfully get to confirm what they knew when they
Yes.
go through the education process. Can you walk us through now though, 6th grade, ELA, can you walk us through what a typical workday looks like for you?
So we walk in, of course, or in the mornings, we do the Pledge of Allegiance, all that good stuff. I usually try to start my class with just kind of a conversation of how was your night, kind of figure out the mood of the room, because I know I have some kids who have had really bad nights. And so I like to figure that out ahead of time. So that way, if they do kind of break down, I know why.
Right.
And then we just get right into working.
How many classes do you get to teach a day?
I have 4 classes, and I have about 30 students per class.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay, so some large classes there.
Yes.
What part of your job surprises people the most?
What do you mean by surprises?
Like, what is something that myself, who has not been in a class except for college, not taught before, what is something that if you told people, they would be surprised to find out?
A lot of times they are surprised to find out the class sizes.
Yeah, I was just then for
just
sure.
because of how big they are. This is the first year we've went to that many in a class, and it has been a struggle this year. It really has. And I think really that's probably the biggest surprise for most people is just how many kids, because anytime they're like, well, how many do you have? I'm like, well, I had 32 at the beginning, and they're like, what? No way. And I'm like, yes, I did.
Is that something you felt like college prepared you for as far as like classroom management skills?
No.
No. Okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to know too, is what skills do you think college prepared you the most for in teaching?
Really just kind of the bookwork part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I know with teaching, it's a lot different than some other kind of occupations. Teaching's one of those you don't really learn until you're in the classroom doing it.
Okay. So like the student teaching is very vital then.
Yes.
Before you get into
Yes.
it. So what do you think it prepared you for the least? Like, what was the most surprising part when you got out? Was it that classroom management?
Probably the classroom management, yeah, because every kid is so different and every grade is different. And so whenever you walk into, like, I student taught in a 1st grade classroom, and it was very different than when I student taught in a 6th grade classroom. And so being able to be in the 2 classrooms, though, the 2 different grades, it was kind of, I was able to see the differences. But a lot of times when you're in college and you're in classes with adults, it's so different than going into your classroom and trying to run your own classroom.
Do you have any tips for what we could like to affectionately call baby teachers when they come out, as far as, if you had to give them a top, 1 or 2 tips on classroom management, what would you tell them?
Respect is number 1. I know I have some kids who still come back to me. They're like, you're my best friend. And I'm like, you're right, I am your best friend. But they also knew when it was time to work.
Right.
And so relationships are a really big thing with, especially these 6th grade kids, because I build trust with them so that when they're having issues, they know they can come to me, but they also know when I mean business and it's time to work. And so you kind of really got to have that line there of, yeah, we can be friends and talk and you can come to me, but now when we have to work, we have to work.
That's right. We have to clock in.
Yes.
We're getting that.
Yes.
That early. What would you say is the most rewarding part of your job?
Really just the kids. I have one that comes to mind, and it was last year, and her dad passed away on Christmas Day. And I contacted her mom and was like, hey, let her know that I miss her and I'm thinking about her. And she came to parent-teacher conference a couple months later and looked at me and she said, I've never been to this. I just wanted to come to thank you, because if you wouldn't have messaged and said, like, you missed her and wanted her back, she had said she wasn't coming back to school.
Oh,
and she was like, she come back to school for you. And, of course, I just started crying, too, right there with her. And, and she still just comes to me to this day, and she's like, thank you for telling me that it was okay to cry. And thank you for telling me that, I could sit in your room and be emotional like I needed to, because her mom had said she wouldn't cry or anything at home. And so she didn't show emotions till she came to school. And that's just one thing that really sticks with me, is it was like I took time on Christmas Day when I found out to message somebody else just saying, hey, tell her I miss her and I'm thinking about her. And because of that, she chose to continue to come back to school and felt good about herself after that.
Wow.
And so that's just one thing that really paused in my head.
Yeah, getting to know that you're that safe space. I had a very similar experience. My daughter lost her mother in her 2nd grade year, and it was, I thank her teacher all the time. I said, you are at that time a strong female influence that she got to have, and someone to watch over her. And she very similarly would reach out to her and just go, hey, like, I'm here outside of school as well. And so it's a huge part to be played in these children's lives that, you know, you think it's a year, but it's really not. It's really when you see them after they've left your classroom as well.
And that's another thing with like baby teachers, like you said, when they come in, they don't realize that they're going to be a mama and a counselor. You're not just a teacher when you walk in the classroom. And that was something when I first walked in, I was kind of like, when I taught kindergarten, they would call me mama sometimes. And I'd say, all right, baby, come on. But I mean, that's how they listened to me sometimes. It was just letting them know that I had that relationship. And so that's a big thing too, is you've got to realize when you're going into it, you're not just going in as a teacher, you're going in as a whole lot more.
Now, you spoke about being able to be that for someone else. Along in your journey, who believed in you the most, and how did they help you get to where you are now?
So I actually have 3 that come into mind, and it is LaDonna Braswell, Annie Atkins, and Carrie Collier. They're all from the first school I was hired on. And I graduated in December, and so I was hired on in January in the middle of a school year.
Ooh.
And I was hired on at Lincoln Elementary in Jackson. And it was a rough area to be in. And, of course, being a fresh college.
Fresh out.
But, I mean, every day they would come down there and they'd say, what you need? Do you need me? And they are really the 3 that gave me a chance, and they saw something that I didn't see in myself, and they really pushed me to be the best that I could be, and they knew when I was struggling, and they were there, and they never let me fail. And so those are the 3 that really pop in my head, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be where I am today.
And tell me just a little bit about what they did at the school or their roles. Were they other teachers with you in your hall? Were these leaders?
So Miss Braswell was the principal, Miss Atkins was the counselor, and Miss Collier was the instructional coach.
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
just a lot of different departments coming together to make sure to support
Yes.
the newest. That's amazing. You don't get to hear that at every workplace.
No.
So that's amazing to hear. Talk to me about the future, though. Right now, you're teaching 6th grade ELA.
Yes.
You're loving it. You've taught kindergarten. What do you see your future looking like in the next, you know, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. Like what goals do you have?
So my goal right now is to go back and get like an instructional coach type of degree, not really an administration degree, because I think back to those 3 who really helped me. And I know even when your baby teacher's coming in, like you really need a teacher that says, hey, I see you. I understand what it's like to struggle. Because I feel like that's why we lose so many teachers right now, is because of the lack of support that we have sometimes. And I mean, I've always had wonderful support. I don't mean that on anybody, but I see a lot of young teachers who come in and they're so defeated. And so I want to be that person for somebody like they were for me, so that way they know. And we need more good educators that stay in the system for a long time. And I really feel like if we could give some teachers more support and just say, hey, I see you messed up, that's okay. Like, let me help you fix it.
Right.
I feel like we would have a lot longer educators and better educators in our system.
So you're really committed then. You're here for the long haul. You're like, I want to see not just the profession improve, but you want to invest in the people in it.
Yes, absolutely.
To bring them alongside you. What advice would you give a high school student who wants to do what you do?
To just do it. Just push through. Don't stop. I know so many people will say, don't do it. Don't go be a teacher. The money's terrible. Yes, it is, but that's not what you're in it for. You're in it for the kids. And I always want them to think back to the one person who was there for them and just know that at the end of the day, they can be that person too. They can always, even if it's just one student, I mean, that one student can make a world of difference.
You can be the Miss Braswell for you. You can be
Yes.
the, what classes do you think they should focus on? Like, do you remember anything in, because I know college obviously had a lot of very specific classes to help you in the teaching, but looking back at your high school and middle school experience, were there any that really stuck out of like, I learned from this, or maybe even a certain teacher that you were like, this is a good skill to use, or this was a good technique?
English, really, because especially, well, like right now with ELA, you know, we're English. So when I look back at my college experience, I had a teacher called, her name was, I can't remember her name now, Miss Page, that was her name. And I remember being in college and looking back at my high school notes. And that's how I passed some of my college classes, was because of her high school notes. And really, because when you get to college, before you get into an education class, it's all about writing and stuff. And it makes it so much easier to get through those basic courses before you get into your actual, you know, courses. So
I'll have a few rapid fire questions for you. So this is just 2 or 3. And I want you to say the first thing that comes to mind. So don't feel like you have to dwell on these too much. It doesn't have to be your best answer. This is just right off the top of your head. What is your favorite part of your job?
the relationships with the kids.
What is the biggest lesson you think you've learned so far?
That some days are very hard, but you still need to keep going.
And what do you think is the best advice you've ever received?
To not quit. Just keep going and keep pushing. And even though some days are hard, the next day will be
I love
just
it.
fine.
I like to make those rapid fire because if we sat and dwelled on those, obviously we would compare everything and try to think of like the most meaningful advice. But, you know, things
Yes.
like what you just said, like don't stop. You know, that's the most practical advice you've given, you know, that you've gotten that you can say, no, it's today. So don't stop today.
Mm-hmm.
Today is hard, but tomorrow could be one of the better days, like what I've had,
Yes.
what I've seen before.
Yes.
Do you have any closing advice for any high school students or college students that are on their way, or even adults who are considering going back to school to teach?
Just make sure it's really what you want to do. Don't go all the way through just to walk out and quit on the kids, because I've seen it before to where teachers will walk out mid-year, and I understand sometimes they have to, but it really hurts the kids when you do that. It's definitely worth it. Every single day it's worth it. Even if I go home in tears that day, I know the next day I wake up and somebody's going to walk in there and put some kind of crazy joke on me and it'll be all better. But just definitely make sure you're going into it for the right reasons, because these kids really need somebody at the end of the day, and you need to be able to be that person for them.
Mary's story is a beautiful example of someone who always knew they were meant to be in a classroom, building life-changing relationships from day one. But what if you didn't grow up with that exact dream? What if you planned an entirely different career only to realize your true calling halfway through college? To explore that journey, we sit down with a high school math teacher who traded in his stethoscope for a whiteboard. We're joined by Devontae Bard, an Algebra 1 teacher at his alma mater, Lexington High School. Originally, Devontae went to UT Knoxville as a biology major with dreams of becoming an orthopedic surgeon, but quickly realized that 8 a.m. microbiology classes were not really his passion. After conversations with his former middle school math teacher, he changed his major to mathematics, eventually transferring to Union University, where he experienced a bit of culture shock adjusting from a large state school to a smaller private Christian university. Now, as a freshman math teacher, he spends his days lesson planning, answering jokes from his students, and teaching them how to do hard things, even if they claim they will never use quadratic equations in the real world. Devontae notes that communication, patience, and flexibility are the most surprising and vital skills he uses daily, especially since college prepared him heavily for the math content, but left him to learn the actual classroom management on the job. His greatest joy comes from witnessing his students achieve small victories, and his core advice to young people is to remain faithful and consistent in doing the small day-to-day things well.
So my name is Devontae Bard. I graduated from Lexington High School, and I'm a Algebra 1 teacher here at Lexington High School now. So,
Very fun, very fun. Now tell me, when you were younger, what did you want to be? So like where did that journey start with your relationship with careers?
yeah. So when I was in high school, my plan was to go into the medical field. And
Okay.
so I originally went to college to pursue orthopedic surgery. I was going to be an orthopedic surgeon, and went as a biology major and quickly found out that was not for me.
What was the giveaway? What was the giveaway of the biology major?
Microbiology 8 a.m. classes. I said, no, I cannot do this. And so we changed.
So both micro and the fact that it was at 8 a.m.
Still the deal. That was it.
They knew what they were doing when they scheduled that class at
They
8
did.
a.m. They were like, this will weed out people that don't want to be here, that can. So, okay, so you find out 8 a.m. microbiology. You're like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Where did you go from there?
So it was a lot of thought went into it. I was looking forward to like the work-life balance, getting out of school. It wasn't something that I was really interested in, but I had talked to some people who had really influenced me. One of those people being Blake Fondren, he was one of my middle school math teachers, and he's now working at a church in Jackson. But I talked to him and just like, hey, I like math. I like working with students. Like, what was it like for you to do that? And so after some conversation with him, I changed my major to math and started studying that, and here we are.
Which, most people would view that math the same way you viewed 8 a.m. microbiology.
Yep.
Were there any moments in that math major that you were like, I've made a mistake? Or was it all kind of the right stair steps to where the difficulty was raised just enough? Did it go smoothly?
So I found myself in the places that I find a lot of my students in right now is, when in the world am I ever going to use this? And so I was taking a lot of math classes that I will never use again in my life. But a lot of it was just building that foundation to where I could be a better teacher. I'm a better learner, and experience what my students feel on a daily basis when they're like, I don't know what's happening. Why are we doing this? But still doing it anyways because it's all a part of the process.
That's right. That's the core, I think, is to be a better learner is when we learn those things that we could never. In fact, but I will name drop. I did use the term Pythagorean theorem just last night, so I at least got
Never
to
goes
name
away.
drop. Yeah, I know. I at least got to name drop it in conversation.
Yeah.
But okay, well, let's start back because we've talked about the 8A microbiology. But let's talk about where did you go to college after high school? Because you're a Lexington High School alum, so part of our Heirs Scholars Network. So where did you go from there?
So my freshman year of college, I went to UT Knoxville, and first semester was rough. We got into the swing of things the spring semester. And then over the summer, some things happened, and so I ended up transferring to Union University for my sophomore year, and I finished out the rest of my college career there. So.
Which, and for those listening geographically, UT Knoxville is what, maybe 5?
4.5 to 5
4.5
hours.
to 5 hours from here, and then Union University is around 30 minutes or so.
Yep.
So still far enough away, bigger city than where you're from now.
Yes.
What was the hardest adjustment that you had to make and this could be to Knoxville or to Union, but just college in general, what was the biggest adjustment?
Biggest adjustment, definitely culture shock. Going to Knoxville from a small town was definitely different. Lots of different experiences, different people from different experiences, and getting to meet them was cool, but there are definitely things in there that it's like, oh, there's actually more to the world than what I'm used to in the small town. And then coming back to Jackson, where I was at Union, it was another shock. Like, oh, there's not a lot of people anymore. There are people from like California, Arizona, and things, but a lot of people there do kind of have the same beliefs, same mindset as being a Christian university, and so that was definitely a different
Completely
atmosphere.
different environment on both sides.
Yes.
What do you wish you knew before going to college? Like, is there anything that you would tell high school you to be like, this is something you probably would like to know, or a tip that you wish you knew?
I would say everybody is going through something. When I went to college, I thought that I was the only person that was struggling and nobody else was feeling that. But everybody in some form or fashion is not just having the greatest time. And so learning to balance that, finding people to talk to, and just realizing you're not alone. I think that's a huge thing going to college for sure.
Absolutely. Well, looking now, Algebra 1, can you step us through just what a typical work day looks like for you being an Algebra 1 teacher?
Ooh, lots of fun. So I get the joy of teaching freshmen. My first block of the day is planning. So I get to get my day started planning what we're going to do for the day.
Or being on a podcast.
Yes, being on a podcast.
We appreciate you giving up your planning period today
Absolutely.
to help us out.
Yes. And so I plan what we're going to do for the day and get my caffeine in and all the things, get ready for the day. Then we get started with whatever we plan. So today we're going to be doing some extra practice over solving quadratics that we've been doing for the last few days. Lots of 6-7 jokes come in.
Absolutely.
From my students, from myself, all of the above.
Being in math
you have
and being
to.
with freshmen,
Have to.
you were
No choice.
You were forced. How many blocks do you have of actual students?
Okay, so I have 3 full blocks, 3 like 80-minute blocks, I believe, of teaching, and then we have a 45-minute block at the end of the day, just for some learning enrichment. So to help students with their homework or just practice some extra skills and things.
What do you think is the part of your job that would surprise people the most? You know, when this is something like if you tell someone and they're like, "Oh, wow, I never would have thought of that." What do you think comes to mind?
It's a great question. I don't know. I think it requires, well, a lot of people know this, teaching requires a lot of patience. And there are times and things that you have to deal with. And it's like, I thought I was just teaching. I thought I was just going to teach math. But dealing with any professional, dealing with people, there are going to be things that come in. And so I think that the biggest thing is there's stories that I can tell. And people are just like, what in the world? Why? But it's beautiful. It's all a part of it. So I love it.
What would you say is the most challenging part?
The students who don't see a need in using math, the hardest thing for me is getting them to see why we may need it in the real world. So like solving quadratics, chances are a lot of my students aren't going to use that in the real world. But setting them up to do hard things and to be good learners. Like when you get to your job, whatever that may be, your boss is going to ask you to do things. Maybe you don't want to do them. but you still can, and knowing that you can. And so giving them those victories, those small victories in learning, I think is huge.
What do you think is the most rewarding part of your job?
The most rewarding part is definitely seeing those students win those small victories, whatever the case may be. I had a student who normally doesn't do too well in this topic. I told her, I was like, I think you can do this. And on our last quiz we took, she made a 98. And it's like, come on, you can do it. And she was so happy. She was like, aren't you proud of me? I was like, yes, I'm always proud of you. But so that's definitely one of my greatest joys.
Now, this can apply to math or this can apply to teaching in general, but what skills do you think are the most important for someone in your career?
Definitely lots of patience, lots of flexibility, all those things. Like today's not going to be a typical school day. We've got some students from other schools coming and visiting, some people from other schools coming and visiting. And so just being able to be on your toes and adjust accordingly is huge.
What skills do you use the most that you didn't expect? Like what are some things that you were like, I didn't think it would take this much of this?
This is going to sound weird, but communication skills, it's
Okay.
huge. Like as a teacher, yeah, you're up front, you're teaching math, but there's even things like communicating with parents. Like how do you properly communicate with a parent appropriately and to students? How do you talk to them in a way that's not going to be condescending? Because some students aren't just going to learn things as fast as others, and balancing all of that. So balancing stuff, flexibility, and patience for sure.
What do you think school prepared you for the most? Like in your college, in your training, when you're getting your education to be a teacher, what do you think that it properly prepared you for?
So I was a math major, so I did miss out on a lot of the education side of classes. But I will say the math definitely, like going into the lesson today, I don't even have to think about the content that I'm teaching because I know how to do it so well. But communicating that, I think college did a great job at preparing me for the math side of things. But the actual teaching, how can I explain this in a way that my students are going to best learn it? And so finding new ways, which a big thing I have my mentor right next door, who you may be able to hear through the mic, just asking her questions like, how would you teach this in a way that students can understand? It's been really helpful.
What does your long-term growth look like? Like, what would you like to see yourself doing in 5 to 10 years? Is there different subjects? Is there different positions? Anything like that you'd like to aim for?
Yes. So, the next few years, I definitely see myself still teaching math. Not sure what area. So I'm certified to teach. I'm anywhere from 6th grade to 12th grade mathematics. So 6th grade math to like calculus. Right now, I am currently working on my master's, and so completing that by hopefully next August, I'll be done. Will open doors to many other things, and so
what
I'm not
subject
sure.
area is that? Is your master's?
My master's is a master's of education in teaching and learning, and so yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. What advice would you give to a high school student who wants to do what you do when they say, I want to be the next Mr. Barr? What would you, similar to how you spoke to your middle school math teacher, what would you tell that student?
I would say just do the small things well. A lot of times we get caught up in these big plans of what I want to do with my future. But if we just remain constant and faithful in things that we have in the day-to-day, then all the other things are going to work out. They just will.
I like that because it's not it's the most practical advice that you could give someone, but it's also not the advice that people assume because just like you said, you assume it's the big aspirations and the big dreams. And it's like, yes, those happen, but it's these small things that will build it to that. That's awesome. I have a couple rapid fire questions, so don't think too hard on this. This is just a couple and they'll seem like big questions, but I promise they're not. What's your favorite part of your job?
Favorite part, definitely seeing students first thing in the morning. Get to get them smiling, get them laughing, whatever the case is. Love it.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far in teaching?
Biggest lesson. I am not as wise as I think I am. A lot of times my students are going to humble me, and I feel it all day, every day.
And what's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice. Oh, it's a good one. I don't know.
What do you think is some of the best advice your mentor has given you next door as far as how to approach this?
We're dealing with students, so don't expect these students to act like adults.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. I think we expect that all the time when we're asking them to make these big life decisions, and we have to remember the prefrontal cortex is not formed yet.
Yes.
Like
Yeah.
it's okay for them to make mistakes. All of that. Well, I really appreciate your time today.
Yes, sir.
We will
Thank
let you finish your planning period and get ready to teach all of these freshmen Algebra 1.
That's
which
right.
has to be a hard sell, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Devontae reminds us that it's okay to pivot and that finding your path sometimes requires leaning on your mentors. But for some future educators, the traditional college route of taking 4 years away from the workforce just isn't an option. Let's talk to someone who is showing incredible grit by utilizing a brand new, non-traditional pathway, getting her hands-on classroom experience while actively earning her degree. Next up is Carly Emerson, an educational assistant at Summertown Middle School who is currently pursuing her degree in special education through the Grow Your Own program at UT Southern. Carly always knew she wanted to care for children, inspired by her grandmother who was a foster parent and her father who worked as a special education teacher. Instead of traditional student teaching, the Grow Your Own program allows Carly to get paid for her clinical practice by working directly in the school system while completing her degree online. Now, navigating online classes and passing multiple rigorous praxis exams proved to be incredibly difficult. But with heavy support from her fiance, her family, and coworkers, she learned how to study and persevere. Her daily job involves helping 6th grade students with IEPs during inclusion classes, taking notes, and running RTI or response to intervention groups. Despite the challenges of middle school attitudes, Carly finds tremendous reward in the moment a concept finally clicks in a student's head. And her best advice to aspiring educators is to simply keep going and remember that you can do hard things.
So my name is Carly Emerson. I graduated from Summertown High School. I went there all my life, from kindergarten to senior year. I am working as an educational assistant at Summertown Middle School now, so back to where I started, and it's awesome. I love it.
That is wonderful. When you were younger, did you know that that's what you wanted to go into?
I did. My Mimi was a foster parent, and I have 8 cousins that are very close, and I'm the oldest, so I always took care of children, and I just loved it so much. So,
what inspired you first to pursue this career?
just really taking care of everybody around me, and my dad was a special ed teacher at King's Daughters in Columbia, and so I would go to work with him sometimes, and I just enjoyed helping the kids do their schoolwork and all that. So I knew from a young age that this is what I wanted to do.
Very nice. Where did you go to college or training after high school?
I went to Columbia State for 2 years with the Hope Scholarship and everything, and then I transferred to UT Southern, which is where I'm at now, and I should graduate in May, fingers crossed, if everything goes well. So
Very nice, very nice. If graduating in May, now as of this recording, what classes are you in currently?
I am in a tech and ed class, so it's going over like the technology you would use as a teacher and everything, and like getting comfortable with that. And then I'm in like a clinical practice class. It's not really much work. I'm getting observed, and it's basically replacing like student teaching.
Okay.
Because I don't have to do that with the program I'm in.
Let's go into that.
Okay.
What program are you in currently?
I'm in the Grow Your Own program.
Okay.
It is a lifesaver, a lifesaver. And I don't have to do student teaching because I'm technically getting paid to do my student teaching because I'm an assistant. And so they replaced that with being an assistant in a school system. So as long as I keep my job till May, I should be okay. So.
And for those unaware about the Grow Your Own program, tell us, how did you enter that program? How did you find out about it?
So the college and career teacher at the school I work at, she's like a close family friend, and she was my volleyball coach and everything. And so her daughter was doing it, and so she told me about it, and I was like, okay. So I was a freshman in college, and I was like, I need to do this. So the summer before my sophomore year of college, I started applying to jobs like in late June. So it was really close to when school was starting.
Right.
I applied to probably like 6 schools, in Summertown Elementary and Summertown Middle School called me back. So I got a job at the middle school, and I started right when school was going to start, like right before I got my desk and everything. And
All right.
so it was like a very quick process.
And then what does your job entail now that you're in the training for?
So I'm doing special education,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the um, degree I'm getting. That's the word I was
Very
looking for.
nice. So that's where you'd like to land after May.
Yes, and it's K through 8
Mm-hmm.
degree, but I think I like the middle school age.
Gotcha.
I love them.
Very
Like,
nice.
Yeah.
Which is a tough age.
Yes.
So it's wonderful to see people
Goodness, yes.
have a passion for it,
Yeah.
to want to be there.
Yeah, they're not so stuck in their ways that you can't reverse it,
Mm-hmm.
and they're also not wanting you to pick them up. So they're just right there in the middle.
And so Grow Your Own, did you start that program with UT Southern? Like this was after you had completed Columbia
Yes.
State, you started
Yes.
UT Southern, and in combination of your education at UT Southern and then your on-the-job training is how you achieved the degree there.
Yes.
Very nice.
It
Very
was.
nice.
Yeah. I tried to stay in contact throughout Columbia State so that I was working as an assistant while I was still at Columbia State.
Mhm.
So I was ahead of the game probably, but I was making sure they knew who I was,
Right.
emailing them every single day like, "Hey, I'm working."
That's
Like,
right.
So
That's right.
I try to stay in contact.
What do you think is the hardest part of your program so far? What surprised you the most?
Online classes.
Okay.
Because
Adjusting to that.
yes, I like my freshman year of college was the only time I was in person to classes, except for like 2 my sophomore year. They were not classes.
Mm-hmm.
Since I've been at UT Southern, it's been all online. Like there's some Zoom calls I can get on, but basically teaching myself how to do it, and it's hard.
A lot of discipline there, I
Yes,
guess,
it's
to
very
give
hard.
yourself enough time.
Yeah.
Was there a time that you felt like quitting or changing majors?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
What kept you going in those moments?
My fiance actually helped a lot. He was a math person, and I am not a math person. So I probably took 4 or 5 math classes where I was like, I don't even want to do this anymore just because of math classes.
Right.
And so he helped me a lot by, like, he taught me basically the skills because I cannot, like, even with the online teacher, like, it was not clicking.
Right.
And so he kept me grounded a few times, like, you've made it this far.
That's right.
Just keep going. Like, I was not into it.
Was there anything else you wish you knew before starting your particular program?
I wish I knew how to study.
Okay. That's where that discipline comes in
Yes,
from the online
yes.
classes?
High school and middle school, which is what I try to tell my kids today, like, you have to learn how to study yourself. Like, it's not a fill in the blank notes anymore.
Right.
Like, you have to find the information and put it in your head yourself. Like, and I was not prepared for that. And I'm not a school person, which is crazy that I'm going to education, but like, I'm not a school person with my own work. Like, I like to break it down for other kids and at a lower level. But like, I don't know. I'm just not a school person.
And yet, here you are
And
persevering.
here I am.
Walk us through what a typical workday looks like for you right now in this current program.
Okay, so I start my morning in 6th grade ELA.
Okay.
And I have 5 students in there that I do inclusion with. So that means, like, they have an IEP, so I go in there and just make sure they're getting extra help, extra time, read aloud. I pull the kids that do have read aloud, and I'll read out the questions and the answers and everything to them. And the teachers are awesome. I love working with them. They work with me and my schedule and my homework schedule and everything. And then I go to 6th grade math, which math, like, I can't.
Rearing its head everywhere.
It is. And I pay attention and I take notes in there so I can teach them after we leave that class, if they missed anything, or some of them get behind on notes, so I take notes for them and so they can catch up. And I really have to pay attention in that class if I'm going to help them at all. So then I have my own RTI group, which is awesome because
And then what is RTI?
it's like it's little groups for, like, we have tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 kids. So, like, struggling students that struggle, but they can make it out of the special ed RTI group.
Mhm.
And then tier 3 is just in a regular classroom, but they still have an IEP. So I have the tier 2 kids who just need a little extra time doing assignments, and so I help them do those. In the little RTI group we have, I have like 8 students, and that helps a lot with when I'm doing this clinical practice. My observer can come to that class and observe
really
me.
see.
Yes, because I
Yes.
have to teach and everything, and that's a perfect time for me by myself to teach with just a small group of students. So I'm actually doing that tomorrow, so I'm preparing for that. And my kids are great. I try to teach on stuff that they have already gone over in class. They just need a little extra push or a little extra information on. So I'm glad I get to help them with that.
Very cool. What do you think, as you describe your job to me or to others that may not know what you do, what do you think is the part of your job that surprises people the most?
I think the age, the middle school age, and how moody and disrespectful sometimes they are. And I think some people just ask, like, how do I deal with that?
Right.
And you really just you can't take it personally, because some of my students, I mean, they're struggling with other stuff that I've never dealt with before. And so I've just got to put that in perspective. Like, I don't know what they're dealing with. And that's with every student ever. And so I have to just try not to take it personally and try not to get frustrated at them, because I know they're not mad at me. I know they're just mad at their situation.
Right.
And so I've just got to put that behind me and just keep trying to help them, which is so hard. It's really difficult to not think about yourself and in that situation and just think about how this could benefit them if I just keep going to try to help them. And I don't achieve that every day. Sometimes I'm just
none of
like,
us are perfect, so that's very fair.
It's just, I have to just sit there and be like, okay, just don't talk to me right now. Just do your work, and I'm just going to sit here quietly. It's difficult, but.
What would you say is the most rewarding part of your job so far?
100% when it clicks in their head. Like, you can see it, and you see that they understand it, and you see that they are happy now to go to class because they understand this subject. And especially when they can raise their hand and answer a question faster than the other students in class that don't have an IEP. You can definitely, and they know, they get it faster. They understand that once they raise their hand and answer the question, everyone's like, oh, they understand it. And they love that. And I'm so glad that I get to break it down for them so they can understand it better.
What skills do you use the most that you did not expect to use?
Math skills.
Math skills.
It all comes back to math.
That's
and
right.
sometimes
That's right.
I get excited when it clicks in my head.
That's right.
You
That's
know?
right. Well, and you do cover, it's K through 8.
Yes.
And you're also covering, I was surprised to hear just the variety of subjects you'll see in a day.
Oh, yeah. I see almost every one of them, except for social studies this year. But the last 2 years I was in a social studies class, and it's every subject pretty much. And I didn't expect that when I started. I thought it was the core subjects like math and ELA. That's the only thing I thought I was going to be doing. Well, then they threw me in a science and a social studies, and I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be in here. Science is right up there with math. I have no idea. But I have, the 8th graders they were my first, 7th grade group. And so I really enjoy them a lot.
Talking about mentors, who believed in you the most, and how did they help?
I would say definitely my family and my fiance and my coworkers, my principal. Everyone has just been on my side through all of this, and it's been awesome. The praxis test, which, if you don't know, that's what you have to pass to graduate and get your teacher's license. That was the worst for me, because going along with not being a school person, I'm a terrible test taker. I studied, which is hard to study for.
That's right. That's what you just said,
yes,
the skill.
It's the skills that I did not learn, and I had to teach myself. And studying so hard for something and then not passing was the most devastating part of it. And I remember getting my test scores in school, at work, and having to leave a class, and like all of my coworkers come over and helped me. Like my principal, the guidance counselor, everybody just made sure that they knew like everyone fails this. Like it's not something you're supposed to pass the first time.
And
like
you had to process that at school.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
I know, and I was kicking myself because I was like, why did I open it while I was at school? I knew, but I had a good feeling about it, so I wanted to just get it over with. And
It's probably good that you did that around that
Yes.
support system.
yeah, and yeah, they have been the best supporters and cheerleaders. Like, and when I finally passed it, I had the flu, so I was at home, and I was like, well, maybe I'm supposed to be at home, and so I opened it and I had passed, and those are the first people I text, and
Wonderful.
they FaceTimed me, and the whole cafeteria was cheering with all the students, so it was awesome.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Now tell me exactly what praxis did you take?
I took so I've taken 5, I think.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes. So
Wow.
the parapro praxis is the first one I had to take for just to be an assistant.
I was gonna say that's the job you
Yeah.
have now.
Yeah.
So you needed that just to be.
Yes, and
okay.
I passed that one the first try. It was
Mhm.
just kind of general education questions, which I was still freaking out about. But and then I had to take the Common Core, which is math, writing, and reading.
Okay.
And I took that to graduate Columbia State.
Okay.
And I passed the reading part the first time, and then I had to take the math and writing like 2 or 3 times. So like when I say testing is not my thing, it's not my thing. Like, and it was hard because I was having to take off work
Mhm.
to take these tests, and I felt like I wasn't being there for my students, and I was just
It's a lot to
overwhelmed.
balance.
And yes, and so I finally passed those,
Mhm.
and then I got
We are currently on location in a school.
in the school, and
so
I
that's a
just
cool
like
little
almost
bell.
got up to go to the next class. But I was just overwhelmed with everything, and so I finally passed that, and I
Mhm.
get to UT Southern, and I take my SPED practices, the special education,
Okay.
and I took that one at home, and I had a little bit of time to breathe and everything, and taking tests at home is the most stressful thing ever because the ETS like website is where you take them.
Mhm.
Well, you have to have like a monitor proctor type thing,
That's right.
and my computer wouldn't work, and they kept trying to tell me to log off, and when I would log back on, it was a new monitor. It was a new proctor.
Yep.
And so that was stressful, but I ended up passing that one, which on the first try, which was awesome. I love
Very
that.
nice. And now we're up to 3 right now.
Yes.
So this is before
This
we're
is
even
before.
close to graduation. I don't think that we understand the magnitude of how many
Oh yeah.
practices
it
there are
takes-
to do.
And it takes a long time because it's not like you can just study the day before.
right.
Like it
It's
takes
a very
long,
comprehensive
yes.
test.
And the I think it was the reading, it's something teaching reading
Mm-hmm.
is the last. I can't believe I forgot that because that was like literally 6 months of my life. But I'm trying to block it out.
That's right. That's right.
The
You're
teaching,
recovering.
yes, the teaching reading praxis was the hardest I've ever taken.
Now, was this the 4th one?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Teaching reading.
I'd count it as 2 because I took it 4 times.
Okay.
Yes.
And then what grades does this cover?
It's like K through 2nd.
Okay.
And it's all like phonics and
That's
phonological
right.
awareness.
That's
and,
right.
And my advisor was telling me about it and everything, and she's like, it's usually more difficult for people who are not teaching in a elementary setting. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, perfect. That's awesome because I'm not.
Right.
And so I tried to like get comfort in my ELA teachers at the middle school, and they're like, we don't teach that. And
That's
so
right.
and I haven't heard it since 2nd grade. And so that was so difficult because there's so many rules.
That's right.
Like English is all rules, and some rules don't apply to everything. And
That's
so
right.
just the practice tests were, I would do really good on them, and then I would get to the test and just freak out and everything. And my test, test anxiety is a real thing, and it's awful. And I think I took it 3 times, and then my 4th time, I went to a different testing center. I went to Athens. I usually went to MTSU to take them.
So you think a change of pace,
Yes.
change of environment might have.
And the poor MTSU ladies that work there, they knew me by name. I would come in there and they'd be like, "Oh, you're good. You can just go on back." I was like, "Don't
I'm
act
here
like you
too
know
much."
me, please." So that was not very, didn't give me much confidence. But the Athens State was awesome. Like my grandmother would go with me on all of them, and she cracks me up. You know, she would be like, "Okay, you've got this. Like, you know what you're doing." And so finally getting the test that scores that I wanted, and I did actually 10 points better than I was supposed to.
There we go.
And so I was like, thank goodness it's all over.
That's
Like,
right. But now that's number 4. So what was number 5? So this was the toughest one
yes.
of all.
Yes.
And then so what was the 5th one to
that
close
was
it out?
that was the
That
one.
was the one
yes.
that was 2.
Yes,
Okay.
because I was
Goodness.
I had to take it so many times. I just
Mhm.
felt like I was taking a different test every
Right.
time, and it was just awful.
Now, is that the last practice that you'll need to start
I hope
after you
so.
graduate?
I really
Which
hope
I know
so.
as you change, if you change content areas, change
Mhm.
subject areas, you
Yeah.
may have to, take another
Yeah.
one from there.
And
But
that's what and like I think if I don't know this for sure, but if I go to another state, I might have to take them again or something. But I really don't want to think about that.
That's right. Well, speaking of that, what would you say your long-term career goal is? What would you like to see yourself doing?
I mean, a special ed teacher would be awesome.
Mhm.
I really enjoy like the accommodations part of it, and like trying new things with students and seeing what works with them and what don't, like the trial and error type.
That's right.
I think I'm really good at that. I
'Cause
like
that takes some creativity, right?
Yes, and I have some students right now that are not on my specific caseload, but I've kind of taken under my wing, and I've made some like behavior plans for,
Mhm.
and I really enjoyed that, and it was just something I didn't expect for myself to enjoy,
Mhm.
and it was just kind of it's just like a sticker chart, really, and if you are good today, you get a sticker, and if you fill out the whole chart, you get a prize at the end. And I didn't expect that to work because they're in middle school, but it would be like it's insane the amount of fun like they have with stickers. Like I didn't expect it with middle school kids, but they love stickers.
I worked with high schoolers, and they'll do
Yes.
anything for ice cream.
Oh, yeah.
So we would
The
always host ice
bribing,
cream.
I'm
That's
not
right.
above bribing at all. Like at all.
Rewarding that good behavior. That's right.
Yes.
Well, and I don't want to make you panic because I
That's
know
okay.
you're looking at graduating in May.
Yes.
Do you see yourself continuing education after that graduation? Do you see any future degrees in your?
I can't say for sure because I'm a little burnt out.
Yeah, it'll take maybe some time
with
to
school
enjoy
and,
what you're going to get to do after
Yeah.
before you look at that.
Because I've just had such a hard time with school, and it's just been so mentally draining, and it's just like I'm ready to be done, and I don't want to push myself to a point where I completely just get rid of it.
Yeah, not enjoy it.
Yes, and so I really don't want to be burnt out with my job or like be so stressed out that I snap at one of my students or.
That's fair.
And so maybe just a break from it for a minute will be good with me, and
Absolutely.
I think I'll be okay with
and get
that.
to enjoy the career field that you've worked so hard for.
Yes,
Absolutely.
and a debt-free college would be awesome.
That's right. What advice would you give a high school student who wants to do what you do, especially one that maybe wants to take the path that you've taken?
Mm-hmm. I would suggest they start studying and getting used to the big test and the pressure it is to have a deadline on tests, because like the teaching reading, because it was so big for my to graduate, I had like a deadline I had to pass it by, and I didn't. And so the pressure of now I might be behind if I don't pass this was insane, and if they don't have someone in their life that is going to push them and be supportive of them, then they need to find that person and start working with that person, and if they want to reach out to me, they can, and I hope that they are inspired by this, and I have a girl that is about 2 or 3 years younger than me that has been reaching out, and I just love getting to help them and everything, and I used the first few years of college, I used my Heirs Foundation person at the work, like that I work with, Hope Perry, and I went to her and I was like, please help me with this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't know what classes to take and everything. And she really helped me a lot. And
this was after you graduated high school as well?
yes.
Yeah.
And so going back to the place where I graduated to work was a little nerve-wracking because I was like, oh, I know these people and they know me and everything. But it was honestly like the best experience because they already knew who I was, and so I was comfortable talking with them about things. And so if they're wanting to pursue this, make connections with people that are not your age. Like, every job opportunity I've had and the school opportunities is because I talk to adults. And so making connections with adults are great, but talking to adults is hard sometimes.
Right.
And it's nerve-wracking, but once you make those connections, they'll help you a lot.
So it sounds like you've got a real entrepreneur type spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, to take this path
Yes.
on how to get to teaching and then making these connections and your support system and stuff.
Yeah.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I've got a couple rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Now they're going to sound like big questions, but I
Okay.
want you to try to answer as quickly as you can. First thing that comes to your mind.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
What is your favorite part of your job?
Helping students.
What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far?
That I can do hard things.
Yes. And then what is the best advice you've received?
Just keep going. Don't think about mistakes that you've made.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming in and
Thank
hanging out with us today.
you. Thank you.
Carly's resilience through the Grow Your Own program is inspiring and is exactly the kind of innovative, hands-on pathway that is helping solve the teacher shortage. But how do these creative programs come to life? For our final segment, we zoom out to get a bird's eye view from a leader in higher education who is actively designing these new pathways. To close out today's episode, we speak with Cindy Chambers, the Associate Dean of Academics and Educator Preparation at ETSU's College of Education and Human Development. Cindy always knew that she wanted to be a special educator, a passion her mother nurtured by setting up early job shadowing experiences for her. She paints a highly encouraging picture of the current teaching job market, noting that prospective teachers are essentially guaranteed employment, with starting salaries in Tennessee around $40,000 to $50,000, which is highly competitive considering it requires a bachelor's degree and offers summer breaks. To combat turnover and teacher shortages, higher education is getting incredibly creative, building field-based programs, year-long residencies, and co-teaching models that give candidates vital, real-world experience before they ever get the keys to their own classroom. Cindy strongly encourages high schoolers to take dual enrollment or teaching as a profession classes to get early hands-on experience, and confirms that every single educator deals with imposter syndrome at the beginning. Ultimately, she views teaching as the most rewarding field possible and advises anyone with a spark of interest to simply try, because the grit and perseverance you build along the way will serve you for a lifetime.
My name is Cindy Chambers, and I came here as a faculty member in special education and have, through the years, taken on additional responsibilities, and I currently serve as the Associate Dean of Academics and Educator Preparation in Clemmer College of Education and Human Development.
Wow. Talk about a mouthful. Here at the beautiful ETSU campus, maybe not today, but it is, oh my gosh, it is wonderful. Before we even dive into what you do now, helping future teachers, how did you yourself get into teaching?
I always knew I wanted to be a teacher.
So you knew.
I knew those Cabbage Patch dolls I lined up were going to learn from me or going to be well behaved. But to really give credit where credit's due, my mom was an educator. And so I grew up in classrooms, and I automatically began from a very early age of identifying kids with disabilities in my classroom and assisting them and befriending them and learning from that opportunity. And so I told my mom I want to be a special educator.
Okay.
And so my mom helped set up opportunities for me to get early experiences beyond what I was doing for myself with kids with disabilities in a variety of classrooms. And that just confirmed that education was for me.
That's wonderful. So you had an early job shadowing experience that got to confirm. That's what we tell students all the time. We're like, if you can get just even 8 hours of experience getting in front of that and seeing if this job is what you want to do. So when you got that, you were like, this is it. I'm where I need to be.
Well, my mom was confirmed. I was always confirmed I
You
wanted
were
to be a special educator. So
You were always.
I had to show mom that I was sure of exactly what I wanted to do, and I've never wavered. This has been a very positive experience and journey across my career.
I love that. I love that. Where did you receive your formal education for to teach special education?
My first degree came from Georgia College and State University, and actually I'll give credit that that's also where I became very service-minded and community-minded. I then went on to go to Vanderbilt University, and I received my doctorate from the University of Kansas. So I've had some of the most stellar mentors across a lifetime, and while that's the formal education, I think the real education happened in the classroom with the mentor teachers.
That's right. What led you to take a step away from the classroom and begin teaching the teachers that are coming next?
People saw possibilities in what I could do. And so I had mentors from higher ed say, we see you and what you're doing, and we think you could try this next step in your career path. And so because of their belief in me, I had belief in myself. And maybe it happened quicker than I originally anticipated, but it's been a very positive experience. And I think the learning never stops.
Right.
So while I joined higher ed, I very much approach all of my teacher candidates to say, we're in a situation where we're going to learn together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why don't we talk just a little bit about the job market right now in teaching? Because from the higher ed perspective, you're preparing future teachers. What does it look like trying to get a job now? Is availability out the roof? Is it you need to be selective?
It's one of my favorite things to say to students because I can just about say you're 100% assured of a job. And it used to be just in rural settings, but now it's across the board that there are lots and lots of jobs available for teachers, and lots of reasons for that. COVID, of course, retirements, and just opportunities that exist there in some high-need endorsement areas, such as special education, world language, the STEM areas, so science and math in particular, technology areas. There are lots of opportunities. Pre-K is a pretty emerging one that we hear from districts that they need educators in pre-K settings.
Yeah, because pre-K is getting to be very standard, right? Like it wasn't always expected, whereas now it feels like pre-K is very, I don't want to say mandatory, but that parents are expecting their children to attend preschool.
I think we all should be expecting preschool, though, because early intervention saves us resources over time.
Absolutely.
And really, if we can provide a foundation for early learners, social, emotional, the physical development, the just building relationships, learning about oneself, all of those things really feed into the success of early learners as they move into the later grades.
Absolutely. And both of my children loved preschool, so it was really fun to get to see them experience that at that, I know that's what pre-K stands for, but that pre-kindergarten era, to get to see them
and
learn and be excited.
And we can't forget play is one of the most important ways that we learn.
That's right. That's right. What about some of the earning potential for teachers exiting their college program? So like starting off.
I think we get a bad rap for our salary, but in Tennessee, starting teachers are getting $50,000. And beyond that, when you compare teacher salaries to other helping professionals, we're actually doing quite well and oftentimes earning more with that bachelor's degree, whereas you see some of the other professions, social work perhaps, or the mental health areas, may require a master's degree and still going in at the same level that a teacher would go in. The other things you have to keep in mind is teachers get summers off. And so while some enjoy that break, others also use it as an opportunity to supplement the salaries that they're already receiving, which certainly takes them heads and tails above some of the other helping professions. Salaries.
True. That's true. I didn't think about that because other professions, like you said, require that master's, where as teachers are incentivized to go after those professional degrees, but are not required. They're able to actually be effective right out at that bachelor's level.
And as they gain additional training, additional degrees, experience, teacher pay goes up.
That's right.
Those are all real benefits.
What would you say are some of the biggest challenges we're seeing right now in the teaching field?
Some of the biggest challenges would be turnover for sure at this point in time, and the stressors of the time demands that it takes. Once you enter that classroom that day, hopefully fully caffeinated,
That's right.
you are on.
Right.
It is yours. I always said it's my stage. And so you are on until the curtains close at the end of the day, and some of the work continues. So we've got to be prepared. We've got to be also responsible for ourselves for thinking about my own well-being and how I'm going to prepare for decompressing at the end of the day, but also looking towards relying on my colleagues and the community around me to help me be the best teacher that I can possibly be. This is one of the most rewarding fields that you'll enter. You make such an impact on the next generation, and while there are some stressors for entering the teaching field, if this is your thing, you're going to thrive.
I think that's something I did a semester of teaching in college, as a major, and I think that's what one of the teachers said. She said, if this is your passion, if this is what you're meant to do, there's nothing I can say to stop you from doing this. Like you will work somewhere in a school, even if it's not through this program, like you will be in education because the people here are meant to be here. And so would you say that's one of the biggest rewards of teaching is getting to be that impact?
There's nothing greater. I think one of the things when I think about what I should have done as a teacher in the field, just to remember all the things you don't think when you're younger in your profession. You think you're going to remember it all. But I wish I had taken the moment to journal and to write down those little things that students did to help me learn, or that I was able to see the impact that I was making in their lives or the lives of their families. We can't leave out families in this conversation of education. And so I wish I'd made those notes, because with age you forget them, but they're the most impactful thing, because while I may have forgotten some of the really cool stories about what happened in the classroom when I taught, those students probably have not. And oftentimes when I talk to people that are interested in the teaching field, I'll say, think all the way back to pre-K and walk through your journey as a student and think about the little things teachers did that made an impact on your life. And they can smile and reflect upon that. That is what we have the opportunity to do every single day we enter a classroom. And so even if it's a small accomplishment of a student, taking those moments to celebrate. And then if I was to write those down, I can't imagine the impact that would have on me today in reflecting about a career.
So it sounds like this is something you encourage your students to do for
Absolutely.
sure. Write it down. It is worth keeping up with.
Yes.
What I'm fascinated to see right now is that you talked about, getting a bad rap for salaries. Teaching also used to be very, there was one pathway to become a teacher. It used to be like there was this very set path. And with the shortage of teachers, with the turnover of teachers, I feel like education did not stand by and wait for the problem to get worse. That education got very creative in how to create future teachers. Do you care to comment on that? Tell us a little bit about how higher ed is keeping up with the creativity to bring future teachers in.
I think this is one of my favorite parts of the job, because I love to put pieces of puzzles together. That's what I always say. I'm a puzzle maker. And so we have, with every student who comes through our door for advisement or as a prospective student, they want to know how. And so that's where I've encouraged all of my faculty to think, the answer is never no now. It's how do we get there? How do we help this person become a teacher? And so the possibilities are endless. And while we have some clear pathways to teacher licensure, we're constantly sitting in offices and conference rooms thinking about how do we do this better? Right. How do we afford more people the opportunity? This week I've been at partnership meetings with my local education agency partners, and we're sitting there thinking about how do we encourage people to go to rural settings? How do we encourage people who thought they couldn't become teachers to become teachers? Where do we find people? How do we go into high schools and have that conversation about here's how you can become a teacher? These conversations happen every single day, and we haven't even begun to identify all the pathways for how to become a teacher.
I love to see the creativity behind it. Now, we spoke to a student in a different interview who is currently, I think, set to graduate in May from a Grow Your Own program. Now, not ETSU's Grow Your Own
Sure.
program, but tell us how that started here and what the process those students can expect to go through that might be a little different than the traditional pathway that we think of.
Yeah, well, what I'll say about ETSU is when we started delving into the Grow Your Own sphere, we saw potential for all of our students to have those experiences. So we have a field-based program to begin with. We have a year-long residency just for our traditional candidates. And so for our Grow Your Own apprentices, the curriculum that we developed and revised, which now we provide for all of our students, really said what are the most relevant things you need to be doing in the classroom, and how can your assignments and the expectations in your coursework reflect that. And so, like I said, Grow Your Own, we had an idea of what would work well for them, but the rest of our student body has benefited because we've said this isn't just about the competencies of an apprentice in the field. This is about all of our candidates having really meaningful experiences in their coursework and in their fields.
Because what are some of the things that have changed just in your tenure here of hearing from the teachers that left the program that said, "Oh, I wish I was prepared for this," or, you know, I may have learned this, but I didn't get this particular aspect until I spent that year-long residency. Like, what are some of the things that you guys heard in feedback and were like, "Oh, we want to make sure we cover this now"? Because that's so cool to see you guys take from one and apply it to all. Like, oh, this is a best practice.
Yeah, I think our candidates wanted more access to the mentor teachers, so we have developed a co-teaching model within our curriculum so that they're teaching alongside master teachers and learning from that and getting direct feedback. Classroom management across the board is always one that you hear candidates say, I wish I had more experiences with that. And so, you know, we're putting students in real world situations, apprentices or otherwise, so that they're beginning to develop some really positive behavioral supports that will create a classroom where students are ready to be engaged because you are organized. You have set the rules and procedures that are going to set you up for success, but they're getting earlier experiences with that, and that's reaffirmed across their program.
I can't agree with you more. And of course, I'm not a teacher, but the teachers that we have spoken to, they're co-teachers, they're teachers down the hall. They're like, that's who got me through my first 2 years. They're like, I had a supportive principal, I had a supportive, you know, this person, like the system was well. But what really got me through was being able to ask my co-teacher, being able to ask the teacher next door, like, oh my gosh, what would you do? Like, how would you approach this? So yeah, that teamwork, I mean, that is essential.
Yeah, and I think when I went through my teacher training program and then I was hired for my first teaching position, you have a little bit of that imposter syndrome where you're locked in your classroom and you go, oh, wow, they let me do this. So what I'm seeing about the candidates we're putting out is they've been there. We require all of our candidates to go through substitute training so that they're getting those opportunities.
Right.
And their first day in a classroom by themselves is not when you've been given the key and the job.
Very smart. Very smart. Well, tell me about when high schoolers visit. You know, when high schoolers tour or they express interest in teaching, what kind of skills, what kind of classes are you telling them to take advantage of right now in high school?
So there's teaching as a profession, which is one of the career and technical education opportunities. Some high schools have that, and then some high schools don't necessarily have it today. We work with high schools on developing that, and in the meantime, we talk about dual enrollment opportunities at the university so that they can begin to get into classes like teaching as a profession and some of those foundational classes, intro to exceptional learners, so that they can say, oh yeah, this is something I think I'm interested in doing. And so they gain those early experiences, high school students. And then when they come on our campus, I said, let's think about what high schoolers want from us. They don't want to hear us just talk in front of them. And so we've really taken an interactive approach. And all of our programs set up opportunities to engage with robots, with coding systems so that they can do that. Assistive technology for students with disabilities and a wide range of other things so that they can see teaching just isn't about holding a teaching manual and standing in front of a class. It's about engaging learners. And so we want that to be visible, whether they're in a high school setting learning about teaching or they're on our campus. And then, of course, if they're coming here, we want Bucky, our ETSU mascot, to take pictures with them, which is one of their favorite parts of the visit. Oh, no, actually, the favorite is the buffet in the marketplace. All you can eat ice cream, that speaks to high schoolers.
That's right.
So we're at least getting them into college because they're ready for the meal plan.
I've taken a lot of field trips with students, and that's always the highlight. They're like, "Did you know there's a whole line of pizza?" I said, "I did know there's a whole line of pizza."
Yes,
That's
there
the
is.
highlight, absolutely. I love what you said though about dual enrollment. I was a college access counselor for years. I don't think we discussed that as an option of that intro to teaching class being taken in high school. That is the best job shadowing experience you could have, because there's a dual enrollment grant. So
Yes.
that is a free class that you could take to find out, like, to just confirm within yourself, confirm with any doubts your parents may have of, like, no, like, this is what I'm meant to do. I've taken this class and love it. Do you see many high schoolers getting to take advantage of that?
We see a lot of high schoolers taking advantage of that, and we want them coming into classes like our education courses so they have those early experiences. You've always seen for years them tapping into the maths and the
That's right.
Englishes, but
Because if
we
it can serve both credits, then it's obviously highly advantageous. But those not elective credits, but a high school elective credit like Intro to Teaching, that is so smart.
it is wonderful experience for our high school students.
Because you can always fit English in. Because not to hate on English or math,
Right.
but you can always take that in college and it fit towards your major. But being able to take a major class in high school with a lot less pressure of, I've decided to major in this, a lot off of the table to be able to focus on that. And also, obviously, college freshmen are learning how to live on their own as well. So getting to try to help them make that decision earlier is such a great idea. What would you tell high schoolers who may have some doubts that maybe they believe they're not smart enough to be a teacher, that they wouldn't have the capability to be a teacher?
Every teacher went through that. Every teacher went through that stage where they thought, oh man,
I'm not an expert.
I'm not an expert on anything. And so I think they can also reflect back to who the teachers were that they experienced. And I think teachers sharing their stories with high schoolers, or how they kind of grew up to then become this professional in the education field, we can help students have opportunities for success that build their self-confidence. And I think that's part of our job in thinking about, what are these opportunities, what are things that you've done that we can celebrate that you are on the path. And I think thinking about the trajectory of becoming a teacher and seeing the steps that it takes, you can begin to check those off and move towards this path of becoming a teacher successfully.
So just letting them know everyone has the imposter syndrome. Like, you're nowhere near the first and won't be the last. I think that's so helpful. What would you say is the best piece of advice that you've received?
Oh, wow. The best piece of advice I've received. I think just to try. I mean, if you don't try, you don't have the opportunity to succeed. In the special ed world, we talk about dignity of risk. And when you try, you have the opportunity to succeed or fail. And that's very real. But because you've done that, you have gained so much knowledge about yourself and whichever direction that you want to go. But the effort of trying and having that grit and perseverance, all of those things are really going to take you, whether you go into teaching or go into some other career path, the persistence is something that's going to be helpful to you.
And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, as we look at the future, how do you see technology impacting teaching? I'm sure you've already seen such a big impact in the last 2 years. Where do you see technology impacting teaching the most over the next 5 years or so?
Well, technology improves every single day. I mean, I grew up teaching in a class that was full of technology, and that was outside of the norm. Now you walk into every classroom and there's big screen TVs, there's computers, there's Chromebooks, there's everything. And I think for teachers and students, we can look at technology as a tool, thinking about how we can be more efficient and effective at doing the work we need to do, but it also opens the doors to experiences we wouldn't otherwise have. I'm thinking about the history teacher that can take students to other countries, the science teacher who can teach students under the sea. Like, there's so many different things that can happen, and I think the caution is that we have to approach technology ethically. And so that's some parameters that need to be set within our field. But the possibilities are absolutely endless when it comes to what technology can afford us, both as a teacher and the resources and the connections we have locally and with our profession, and students who can also make those connections in many, many ways.
Well, thank you so much for coming in
Of
and hanging out
course.
with us today. And
I think you hit on about everything.
and thank you for what you're doing with this future generation of teachers. I mean, just getting to hear your excitement about the creativity of how to make teaching more accessible is super inspiring. So thank you so much.
Yeah, this is a field I love. And so whether I'm talking to students or talking to the community, I want to share the joy of teaching. And more than that, I want to share the joy of the experiences that students in our schools have because they are learners. And that's going to pave the way. Education's everything when it comes to the future of our society.